Question, just with the comment for the students who are looking for dissertations. Yi has given you a wonderful thought, I think, for flagging this issue. And just to mention some of the other types of studies that are done in the literature beyond this, really would go to Rudy's question, which is the first sets of studies all looked at outcomes like this, like inflation, unemployment. Then another set started looking at policy instruments. So what happens to the budget deficit? What happens to the money supply? What happens to interest rates? And then there's still another much smaller literature pointed out by some of the public choice economists and political scientists, which is the incentives to do things at election time or party congress time are not limited to these micro variables. And so you will see, at least for the U.S., some patterns in the amount of legislation, the more micro-oriented, like, as you mentioned, maybe what happens to prices of particular commodities and things, so that there is a wonderful set of studies to do from both an economic and political economy perspective on these policy patterns that may exist or not.
Right. Thank you, Tom.
Yes. Is there any study trying to look at the effects for, as causation for, the large demonstrations that now have gotten over 100,000 people?
Not to my knowledge. I believe this article to be published in 2 months will be the first. So I expect a follow-up extensions.
A question this time instead of a comment. And I know it's a very opaque area, but could you give us any insight in terms of the operation of the Party Congress, how the better economic performance would help the position of the leadership? I mean, presumably that's implicit in here that it strengthens their hand, but it's very much of a black box to me.
Well, see, actually, it is opaque, it's a black box to me as well. As I indicated, at least I saw 2 scenarios which were different, if not totally disparate. One is a politician incentive. The other is the national agenda. From the latter perspective, a stable economy, as demonstrated by low inflation and robust employment, would provide conditions for sustained long-term growth. Of course, we have to assume away environmental issues and others. So that's one. The other is the politician agenda. They want to remain in power. They want to make people feel happy. Then what is the connection between the two? So in that area, it is okay. And I'm sorry to not have a lot of insight in this nexus.
I know they do not have elections the same way that we have here. But did you look at any changes in the makeup of the delegates to their party conventions?
I haven't. That would be a very fruitful area. I haven't. My understanding is that over the years, the delegates have become more and more open with their critical views of government policies, and they were able to make changes in policies by the government, by their openly stated positions. But that would be a very interesting research subject.
I would expect to see, picking up on Mart's point, that as when you had changes in the demonstrations and some of those things, that you would catch possibly the lags in the responses.
Yes.
Yeah, I just have a question about your table number 4.
You want me to revert?
Yeah. Like, when you calculate the inflation of the rest of the years, you mean like the years that the leader cabinet is on, like the conference, the
Yeah.
years of the conference?
Yeah, for instance, if there are 6 party congresses, then the data points will be 6. So you take the inflation levels of the 6 years and average, sum them up, average them, so that's the average year.
And I also have a question, like, because you also mentioned about the party with ideology and rational
Yeah, right,
reporter.
yes.
So do you think like Chinese people is rational and
It depends on the definition of rationality. For people who are followers of public choice or rational choice, the cardinal assumption is people are rational. All of us are. But in this case, as I pointed out, there's no effective voting procedure to elect a national government. Now, I guess rationality in the context of political theory may not be quite functional. You see, people have incentive, people have rationality, people know the difference between inflation and unemployment. But even with that knowledge, they do not participate in electoral politics to elect the party they want. So that says no. That's a question, I guess, the answer is
Just wanted to comment too, that we, in public choice, we also have the concept of rational ignorance. So, and what Yi was putting up in shorthand as the irrational or the non-rational could include very much two people that may be normally fairly rational, but they don't have incentives to figure out all the economic models and so forth. So it may be, you know, the irrational there was a proxy for not full information, not understanding all the operations of the economy. So it doesn't mean that people are necessarily fundamentally irrational.
There are boundaries. Other questions? Oh, Mark.
You're,
You just come back?
yeah, I just got back.
So you have the update information about
I
China?
did some research by walking around. No, they had, just on Friday in the China People's Daily, it came out at 11.2% GDP growth per square. So one question is, what's your sense of your comfort with those type of numbers, right? I mean, you know, it's plus or minus.
Well, I think, there are different areas. I think in unemployment, definitely the numbers are understatement. Simply based on the strict definition of unemployment by the government of China. Inflation probably will be some understatement, and it varies a lot from province to province. And in GDP, I personally do not believe it's an understatement. Actually, I mean, understatement in a different sense. In 1 year, all of a sudden, the Bureau of Chinese Statistics found that there was a 20%, at least 20%, if not 30% shortfall in reporting the retail industry data. And in retail industry, we have a lot of small business operations, such as restaurants. And after China adopted the tax system, when I was in China, no one was taxed, right? But now there's a tax system, tax code. Then, speaking of rationality, private business owners and even state enterprises have incentive to understate their income. So in that sense, I do believe, based also on the corroborative data of shortage of GDP in retail industry, that GDP data in China is understated.
So the other question is probably for you and Tom Willett, and I'll buy you guys lunch, is should I be remunerated in dollars or in renminbi or euros in the future?
Oh, we all know that there's a pressure on the appreciation of Chinese dollar. We all know that. But if you want to be speculative,